Hello, everyone. We'll be getting started in just a minute. Just waiting for all of our speakers to join. Welcome to Uniting Societies. All right, just a minute. Let's see. Just bringing up some of our speakers. We have Board coming in. Direct. Once you get in, please test your mic if you can.
Test 1 2 3 beaming in from the internet.
Amazing. I can hear you. Awesome. Getting a couple more people up here. Let's see. Directive creator, I see you in there too.
I just want to state for the record, I'm the most punctual of the guests today.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right, let's see. Let's get Luke in here. Paul. All right, not seeing Paul yet. Oh, there you go. And Luke, I see you out there. Yeah, invite to speak. Just invited you.
Sounds like, where is it? Can't find it.
Well, at least we can hear each other this week. So I'm very happy about that because I was having anxiety.
Yeah, last week was.
All right, we got Herman in. I think I just invited you to speak if the last one didn't go through. Do we have everybody now? Let's see.
I think so. Marcus.
Marcus.
Yeah.
Oh, there's
Okay.
Marcus.
Oh, yeah, under direct. Okay. And Herman, I did request, I did invite Herman to speak. So hopefully he's able to get up. I know in previous weeks we've had some technical difficulties with bringing some people onto the space. So hopefully all right. Well, maybe we should start out while we're trying to get Herman on here. We could go around and everybody could introduce themselves, I guess, starting with the most punctual.
I will accept that burden and the responsibility. Thanks for having me on today. I go by Board or Board Elon. Been around the internet for about 11 years, and more relevant to this conversation, founder of Edison. It is a joint venture with Improbable. A lot of folks in here who we are friends with, we are working with. Our goal is to spin up massive multiplayer events and let you take a vacation from your normal digital home. So very excited to talk about that and what you guys are working on as well.
All right, I guess Paul, do you want to talk and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hey everyone. So for those that don't know me, my name is Paul. I'm the founder of Somnia. We're essentially building a blockchain and a set of interoperability protocols for the metaverse and gaming.
Amazing. Who would like to be next?
I can go next. So hey everyone, I'm Direct. Similar to what Board is doing, we are building on the M Squared network. Victory League. Victory League is the sports metaverse. Like we can hang out. Everything is around sports, about like your favorite athletes, getting closer to them, to the brands that you love, and just celebrating sports in ways that you couldn't before. So very happy to be here.
Amazing. Very exciting. Very exciting. And I think also exciting, we did get Herman up. Do you want to test your mic and introduce yourself?
Hey, how's that sounding? Is that okay?
It sounds okay. Yeah, I a little bit far away.
Come to me last. I'm gonna jump onto 3G and hop right back on again. Give me 1 second.
All right, sounds great. How about Directive Creator? Did you introduce yourself yet?
I did not, but I'm a Directive Creator, creative director at Socialura, founder of Grills Gang, and someone that's just very passionate about building with MML, the Metaverse Markup Language. And I'm excited to be here and connect with all of the people here today.
Awesome. Welcome. Now, Luke, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. Hey everyone, my name's Luke, also known as Elsie Zonda, previous content creator and streamer on Twitch for many, many years. I am now the head of user acquisition at Improbable, and I'm also the GM of a new project called Jitter, which I'll dive into a little bit later.
Awesome. Glad to have you here. PP Man, how about you go next and introduce yourself?
Hey guys, just for the record, I was the second most punctual, so I need that title. PP Man here, VP of Product at Yuga. I've been at Yuga for 2.5 years, which is probably like 20 years in normie time. Building the other side, which is built on top of M Squared, and leveraging a lot of the tech Sami is building. So excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. I was just going down the list, so I guess Twitter did you wrong there with placement. So who's next in line?
I could try now if this sounds better.
Oh, loud and clear. Perfect now.
Nice. All right. Well, hi, I'm Herman. I'm the CEO of Improbable and one of the co-founders of Improbable M Squared. And I've been working on stuff for about 12 years now. So by PP Man's mathematics, I think that makes me 1,000 years old, which is concerning. But I've also wrote a book called Virtual Society, all about how to make this metaverse stuff actually spend a long time not just building technology, but working on a lot of games and content. It's out there, some games you played. So really excited to be here.
Awesome. Excited to have you. And I just finished your book as well, so I might be prepared to ask some good questions. But let's
you
get
and 5
started.
other people have done that
if
globally. I'm very proud.
Well, as an author myself, I know how it goes. Yeah, so if you want to add to the conversation, just raise your hand, and no order or anything, just get in where you feel like you have something to contribute. So I guess we could start off by talking about what made you interested in joining and participating in the Somnia ecosystem. Anybody want to jump on that one?
I can go first if you want, because I joined it. Like I didn't found Victory League. Like I joined it, but I'm in the Web3 space for I think over 3 years now. The thing that for me was a no-brainer to get in there is that our lives first of all become more and more digital. As like everyone being here is the proof of this, but it's also going to the next generations and like digital assets, like social connections, everything is going to become more and more digital. So for me, it's a no-brainer to go into this direction. And found out about Improbable, about Victory League. Personally, being a super sports fan, like very passionate and interested in this space, and of course, like working with football brands, huge athletes, like just doing metaverse activations and events that are happening online. Is something that is honestly like it's a dream come true. Like it's combining all the passions. Like it's gaming, it's tech, it's Web3, it's sports, it's everything that I personally love, and it's a pleasure to work here and working closely with Improbable, and of course like all the other people that are speakers here. Most of who I like know personally or talk to regularly. So I'm very excited to be part of this space.
Yeah, we are really building a great community here. It's very exciting. So how about Directive Creator? I know that recently we've been doing some integrations. Do you want to talk about what attracted you to the Somnia ecosystem, or anything that we've been doing together that you want to discuss?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm just, as you know, or you might not know, I'm just very excited about using MML, the Metaverse Markup Language, and I'm very excited about bringing in different projects, different companies, different people together in these metaverse spaces, and having assets and having NFTs and things that are interoperable that can freely move between these different spaces. And that's what got me interested with Somnia, especially like the new like playground functions that were released. Like the big thing is, for me, it's just like this super fun thing to see where you can have the grills in this case jump into the playground and they get to play there, but they can also jump into Construct, Improbable's test metaverse. And hopefully in the future they can jump into Other Side and things like that as well. They can jump in Edison Games. And basically, you get to move your NFT freely between all these different places that are seemingly unrelated, but you still get to use the same avatar, the same tools, the same objects. I think that's something that's originally even something where Ethereum was created to do so. So I'm happy to kind of see that finally come to fruition, and help support that, help build with that. And I mean, that's kind of the title of this spaces as well, right? The uniting societies. Like, I think it's super super fun to be able to see all these different worlds and different people come together, and just have fun and just like experiment new technology and new things. So that's what got me interested.
Awesome. Yeah, that's what we're all about, is bringing everybody together, both in real life and in the digital world as well, because it's all connected. Does anybody else want to chime in there? We have
Sure.
our I think one of our first partners was Yuga, and our most recent partner, Board with Edison. And I know I just interrupted Herman as well. So
No, I just wanted
Herman,
to
why don't you
throw
go
in
and
two
I'll chime in
lines on
after?
top of. Sure. I just wanted to throw in 2 lines on what Directive has said. Why did we like help start Somnia, and why are we in this? I wish we didn't have to, right? I mean, it's been like 12, 13 years, and we were supposed to have these like on-chain games with all of this state and computation, and it was all meant to magically happen, and it just kind of hasn't. And so, like, we're here reluctantly. We're here, like, Thanos in the Avengers movies. Like, we have to do it ourselves because it doesn't feel like anybody is going to build the kind of blockchain infrastructure that's necessary for really the next generation of stuff happening. There just aren't the incentives to do it. And so, yeah, like, I think the goal of uniting societies and bringing people together is very laudable. I think we have to ask ourselves, like, why hasn't this happened yet, right? So for me, it's like a chance to actually start rather than wait for someone else to do it.
very, very true. Very good points there. Does anybody else want to add an additional point there?
Yeah, I can chime in. This is Board. I'm reminded of a time maybe 15, 20 years ago when games would get released and the games were so advanced that they were kind of clunky on your computer. Like, your computer was actually not powerful enough to run the games, or your internet speed wasn't good enough to truly have the multiplayer. So the product was amazing, but the infrastructure wasn't there to support it. And that was kind of a bummer. And eventually the infrastructure caught up. And I think for me, at least, the way I'm thinking about Somnia is blockchain was really built for simple operations and transactions, right? Financial movement, basic contracts. But if you think about something like the metaverse as this 3D world, there's a ton of information that has to be sent back and forth to people, and existing infrastructure just isn't really built for that. You can kind of wedge it in and sort of make it work, and we've seen that. But no one's really built something finely tuned for that purpose, and that's the way I'm thinking about Somnia. And that's what gets me excited, because I think that the infrastructure really hasn't been able to support the vision that a lot of us in this room have wanted to see come to life.
Very good points there. PP man, would you like to add anything before we move on to the next topic?
Yeah, for sure. So the question was around like what's interesting, like what's the most interesting part of like building in the Sonia ecosystem, right? And I think building in a decentralized manner, you want as many people to build on top of what you're building. Take the ODK for example, which is built on top of M Squared's World Builder. You want it to be as extendable as possible. You want people to like be able to like get that and do whatever their own creation it is. And I think that one of the biggest edges Somnia has is solving the interoperability issues that metaverses have. I think that it allows people to jump in, build stuff, and take it across metaverses. I think that's one of the coolest things about the ecosystem.
I'd like to chime in quick as well, just to add something on top of all of this.
Perfect.
I think for me, I joined crypto after the kind of 2017 bull run, where we went into the bear market. It was a lot about companies building stuff for the future, and from like a gamer or streamer perspective, I was fed up with spending thousands and thousands on various in-game cosmetics and God knows what, FIFA Ultimate Team over the years, and then at the end of the year, everything I purchased basically became worthless. And I think that's what drew me to kind of Ethereum. You had a lot of these crypto games at the time, Axie Infinity, Crypto Kitty, stuff like that. And that for me kind of revolutionized the idea of, hey, look, I'd love to be able to actually see the items and everything that I purchase have some sort of value in the long term. And obviously nowadays, you look at Ethereum and the gas prices and stuff like that, it's not scalable. And I think that's where we need a blockchain, and specifically for kind of what we want to build in the future for Jitter as well, as we want people to be able to take these interoperable items and be able to actually have some value on the secondary market that they can actually go and, swap and trade and stuff around, and being able to have a blockchain that can facilitate that is quite exciting.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And it's funny, I think a lot of in some interviews in the past, Vitalik has said that it was a sword getting nerfed in World of Warcraft that taught him the value of decentralization and was a part of inspiration for what he eventually created. So it's fun how everything's coming full circle. So yeah, let's move on to the next topic. What is the virtual society and where did this idea come from? So I think we could let Herman start off with this, and then the rest of us can kind of talk about what this idea means to us, and if we have just any thoughts to add.
That's a high pressure question. I'm not going to plug the book since the question actually plugged the book. But I would just say most interesting question to ask ourselves is,
I think that 3G is doing
what
you wrong.
value do people get from virtual experiences, right? I mean, why do people play games? What is the utility of better or worse? Better or worse, guys?
Yeah. I appreciate you trying with the 3G there, Herman. Paul, do you want to continue
This might be better. Is this better?
Oh yeah, it sounds a little
Thank
bit better.
God. All right, fine. Sorry, I finally
yes.
found Wi-Fi. So there is no virtual society without Wi-Fi. Never forget that. So the kind of key points, just to be quick on this, is it's about creating a context for people to have valuable experiences that are not just entertainment, but are actually an extension of their lives, right? So when you're in a stadium and everybody cheers and your team wins, is that entertainment or is it more than entertainment? Is that actually it could be something that makes you cry, right? It could become something that's really important in your context. So for me, virtual society is taking the idea of games and generalizing that out into a different type of thing, something we've never seen before. Not just online worlds that are closed like World of Warcraft, but online worlds that connect to our real lives and bring benefit back to our real lives, and vice versa. And I think if you're money minded, then one could argue that as AI makes the marginal cost of all manufacturing and production and services go down and the world change, then the last thing that'll have value is fulfillment, right? It's experiences. So the concept of virtual society becomes really important. And if you're more like, socially minded, then a lot of people in the world are kind of denied access to experiences that are really important, right? Really important, not just because they're a luxury, but because we know from psychology that without those experiences, people really don't have deep satisfaction with life. They don't have the ability to have and create meaningful relationships, to have a voice, to be creative, to do more. So for me, a virtual society is about accepting and embracing the idea, even if people think we're weird, that games aren't just games, that they're more, that they can be more. And if you want an example of that, I would point to the Yuga community. I would point to what PP Man is part of, and say, look at that community. Is that about entertainment? I mean, half the time it isn't, right? It's about something deeper. It's a deeper form of connection. So for me, that is what we're doing here. We're trying to take the idea of virtual worlds and take them to the next level in terms of their value to people.
Amazing. I'm glad we got Wi-Fi to get that. Does anybody have anything to add to that point, or did that spark any kind of inspiration for anybody?
Yeah, I think for me, this is why I do what I do and kind of gets me out of bed. This idea of a virtual society is two things. One is around what Herman was talking about, creating more meaning and fulfilling lives where people can connect online and be together and feel stuff together, which I think for me, it comes down to what I call egalitarianism. So I wish the world was more equal. I wish that it didn't matter where you were born, who you are, that we all had equal opportunities, and based on the quality of your work and the merits of your outputs, you got rewarded in this world. That's not how the world currently works. And I think this idea of a virtual society, the internet, the metaverse, these concepts all help build towards that and make us have a much more equal society where we can all be together, we can all be on equal footing, and then also economically benefit from that as well. I think I love the idea of being able to work online in these digital spaces, create for them, be creative in those spaces and create cool stuff that people enjoy and people have fun with. That for me, giving that to the world, I think is an essential thing, and I wish it was done faster. Every day I wish we could just do it faster.
Amazing. Board, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I mean, just to expand on this, I think that virtual societies have also given people the ability to partition their existence, just to put it in a very deep way, right? So you're born into a certain society physically. You are in a place, you are in a country, you are in a nation. Unless you're very wealthy, you can't really live in multiple societies at one time. You can certainly move and make that drastic change, but obviously it's not easy in the physical world. And now we live in an internet world, right, where you actually can split up your time. You can live in the place that you physically live in. You can be on Twitter, if you consider that a nation. You can be inside of Fortnite. You can be inside of the other side, inside of Edison. You can basically be who you want to be and choose to live or participate in many societies at once. And I think that that's good, right? That's healthy competition. Everyone's going for your time, for your attention. And hopefully, when all this collective attention is brought together, people can do more than just play and hang out, but actually build up societies that do more than that.
Yeah, that's interesting, your Fortnite example there, because like I would imagine, I just kind of going off the head here, but I would imagine that their income is greater than some countries, you know what I mean? And if it was community owned and not just owned by a massive corporation, then it would be a lot. Well, actually, being owned like by a massive corporation is a lot like a country. But if it was spread out like a DAO, then it would be more like the kind of country we want in theory. You know, that's democratically owned and stuff. So yeah, I just think that's a very interesting point, and it's very comparable.
Well, in the future of all like cyberpunk narratives is that, you know, multinational corporations are actually the government, but usually it's very dark. So I think we're all trying to build a more optimistic and friendlier version of that versus like Apple being the new United States of America.
Absolutely. That's all. We actually have a blog on our website called like something about a utopian metaverse. And it's just all about how, you know, the metaverse started as this kind of dystopian science fiction idea, but we're kind of reclaiming it because there is a lot of value there. And a lot of times those kind of science fiction books are more of a representation of our present than they are of the future, really. So we can redesign that future by doing well in our present, I think. Does anybody have...
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'd add, I always like to take a more, you know, from the book, I mean, I completely believe in being driven by the way we would want the world to be. But I think we also have to build things that make sense when the world isn't ideal. So one question might be like, well, what stops this endeavor, this project, all of us working together, Somnia, Yuga, M Squared, Improbable? What stops us ending up becoming the bad guys, right? Like, why won't we just end up like everybody else with a closed network that starts open? And I think one of the main incentives for that is that our goal, the way everything's organized, is to enable hopefully billions of dollars of investment into the ecosystem, not just billions of dollars of value that we create, but we want to create something that other people want to invest in. And one reason why like a country run by a megacorp probably wouldn't work is that nobody else is going to invest into something that has no guarantee of ever producing a return or ever having any kind of relationship with its customer that's kind of real, right? So, this is why in the real world democracies do so much better at attracting investment than tyrannical governments or dictatorships. It's not because they're bad governments. Tyrannical governments can often be very good governments. It's because nobody wants to invest in something where one person can change the rules and screw everything up. And this kind of happened a lot to people who invested in China, for example, where they actually couldn't get their money out, or they found the government would change rules and then completely alter the relationship they have with their local with their local business that they've created. So while I want to be driven by ideals, I also want everyone to be aware that like if we don't act this way, if we don't build the society that makes us all want to get out of bed, we also won't make any money.
Very, very good points there. I appreciate the realism. I definitely need to be brought back down to earth many times every day, I think. Does anybody have anything to add before we move on to another topic? All right. So since we're all kind of in the space of virtual worlds, do you all think that everything IRL can come online, like any type of event or experience, or are there some use cases that are just always or that are best fitted for virtual experiences and others that are just always going to be IRL? Like, where is the maximum for both also? Any thoughts there?
I'll start. I think that one of the things that excites me the most is having IRL experiences being enhanced by virtual experiences. I think that value prop of being able to be somewhere that you can share with, people that you can actually interact with IRL, but having that layer of enhancement that, is a virtual world is pretty exciting. I think that Herman, board, and directive creator know that I'm like super addicted to Twitter. And if you think about it, Twitter is a virtual world, right? A 2D virtual world. But being able to, have an IRL experience that perhaps is a social experience being enhanced by perhaps a 3D virtual world is, in my opinion, like something pretty exciting.
That's a very good point, and I think that you are the best to give the first answer because you all have such great in-person events at Yuga, and you're now taking on the metaverse for Web3. So very, very interesting thoughts. Does anybody else have anything to add on that about IRL events versus metaverse and the compatibility between the two and the symbiotic relationship, perhaps, as PP Man was just saying?
So I'll go a bit. So I think for me, the digital doesn't replace the physical. They're different modalities of doing similar things, basically. And the realm I see that you can do everything digitally is you just give more access to a broader set of people that can't necessarily go there. So if you think of like a football match like Victory League is doing, that is something that I have to go to a stadium, so I have to be geolocated and I have to have enough money to be able to get there. Whilst moving that to a digital means that anyone in the world can now access that, which is awesome. So, but I don't think it replaces the physical one. You're still going to have real life football matches which people want to go to, similar to baseball matches, similar to like live music events. It just gives people more optionality, which I think is better for the world because it means that people can access these things, be a part of these things, even if they can't physically get there or can't financially afford to be there, which I think is awesome.
That is awesome, and that kind of pushes back on that narrative that everybody's just going to be plugged into the goggles all day long, sitting on their chair or whatever. Is that a new hand, Herman?
Yeah, just one small point, which is attending is one thing, being heard and being seen is another. And I think when we're in the first world, we're always thinking about how privileged we are to be able to choose between going to a real event or, watching it. But I think in a lot of the world, if you're a fan of a football team or a particular artist, they might never come to your town. They might never see you. Not just you seeing them, but them seeing you. And I think that them seeing you part is like vitally important to why people care about being part of communities. And in some cases, the virtual might be the only way to achieve that.
I
Very
think kind
good
of
point.
riffing on that point, that connection makes you care. I think one of the big problems you see in the world is what tends to happen with people is you care about the people who are closest to you because you see them every day and you know them. You don't care about people that are further away that may be much worse off than you because you never see them. And if you give them spaces to interact online, you can learn about each other's lives and make a much more connected, unified world, which I think is a great thing to try and push for.
We just lost some speakers a couple minutes ago, but I think we brought them back up. Are you with us, Luke and Creative Director now?
Yeah, back in, thank you.
All right, sorry about that. It's buggy sometimes here. Do you all have anything to add to the recent topic?
Not on this one, no. I think my thoughts have been conveyed by others, but I'll chime in on the next one.
We will move on to the next one then. Sounds good. All right, let's see. What do we need to get to that futuristic vision of a decentralized real-time virtual spaces and applications? What's holding us back? We talked a little bit about it earlier, I think, but let's get, I guess, more specific with it.
I mean, just to touch on what Herman was saying earlier, it does feel somewhat siloed still, right? Like we are trying to not create a metaverse where it feels like you're entering through 3 or 4 hubs, or that somehow it feels like it's owned by a small handful of mega corporations. Because if that happens, it's almost like we're recreating the current model, right? Of it's Epic, or it's Apple, or it's Microsoft, and that doesn't necessarily make sense. The internet as a thing does feel very decentralized, and it took a while to get there. And even still, it's, there's FANG, right? It feels like there's a handful of companies that still kind of control the majority of attention. And so I think with things like the metaverse, we are still working towards distributing, the pipes that power it, right? Whether that's streaming technology, blockchain technology, the engines that actually render it. It's still a low number of powers that control it. And I think that is the current state. And much like a lot of things in crypto, you progressively decentralize. You can't do it at the beginning. And we're towards the beginning of those things. But I think that we all have the goal here of expanding the number of participants and investors. And eventually it is just, the next version of the internet. It's a more 3D internet. And it does feel like anybody can do anything. They can host anything. We don't have to all go through the same 2 or 3 access points.
Yeah, I have to agree with Ward. I think that if I had to categorize it, it's 2 things that we need to do to reach that. The first one, I think that is it's not being afraid to experiment, just as much as possible, keep iterating, and things will work, things won't work, but pushing those boundaries is what's important. But to Board's point, the second part is I think opening the tools so that anybody can experiment and anybody can push the boundaries. If not, we'll end up in that same situation that he described. So yeah, agreed.
Yeah, so I think it's infrastructure tooling is a massive part, but I personally, so I'm a technologist and product guy, so that's what I think about every day. But I think the biggest problem is incentives. If you think about the current world, companies are incentivized to kind of centralize, control everything, and extract all the value for themselves. And so I think the biggest gap that I think about and talk to people a lot about is how you create a structure that means people who are on the network want to share value with each other and want to create this kind of interoperable global ecosystem that makes sense for them as a business, because it grows the whole pie for everyone, and then everyone can be bigger together. whilst traditionally that's not what happens. You try and basically corner off your bit of land, be that the internet, be that the real world, and you extract as much value out of that as possible. And so I think the biggest problem is the incentive structure that makes everyone want to work together effectively. I don't actually have a solution to that, interestingly. If anyone has an idea, it'd be cool to know.
Anyone want to jump in there?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I mean, just to say that this was a harder problem before the games industry's economics became so awful. Like right now, with all the layoffs, you may have seen 10,000 this year, 10,000 the year before. Getting access to community members and giving people content that they really want to enjoy when competing against every piece of interactive content ever created, it's becoming harder and harder and more expensive. So that forces collaboration, right? Like the idea that, you know, we're going to make, even with our experience, even with our capital, even with where we are, that we're going to like make this hit new MMO all by ourselves. It's, you know, something we've worked on several times and you know, seen a lot of content launch. It's just not a realistic outcome. But the idea that maybe if we can create like a Lego block system so that we could create part of that MMO and then other people could create part of that MMO, and then collectively it might add up into something even greater, that becomes more possible. Like I want to call out Project Dragon, and maybe PP Man wants to talk about this. But what's really interesting is like you guys letting people use avatars, you know, in other side that are not just Yuga avatars, right? So that's good for Yuga, that's good for everybody, because it means that there's going to be more content, more options, right? If you had to make 1 million skins by yourselves, that would be really hard. But the idea of importing communities and value, that helps to kickstart and bootstrap the value of new projects. You know, 5-6 years ago, 10 years ago, maybe this wouldn't have been as economically interesting. But now when we're up against Fortnite and Roblox, if we don't share, if we don't add value to each other's projects, we definitely lose. But I'd love to hear PP's view on that. I've also changed to my ape profile during this, just to confuse everybody more.
Wait, you did? Let me see. No, oh yeah, very nice ape. I love it. I do have to say, Herman, that the background is off. It had to be orange, but that's fine.
Aqua forever, but I'm not Aqua either. But there we go.
Did you really go for Aqua though? Was that your team?
I was always a fan of Aqua. You know that. I know that. I can say it now, but let's move on. Right, we'll move on. The war's over. I won.
All right, I'll take it. Yeah, like one of the, I think that one of the most exciting parts, and it was shown in Project Dragon as well, but with Improbable technology being able to like be with a bunch of concurrent users, I think that if you think of like regular servers, like in real life, you're not with 100 people in the stadium when you're watching a soccer match or whatever it is that you're doing, and being able to experience that with a lot of people, that simulates actual life where people aren't separated into separate servers. In my opinion, was one of the coolest things that we experienced in Project Dragon, aside from being extremely chaotic, which that was, in my opinion, extremely fun. Just it was very on brand, in my opinion, just the amount of chaos in there.
To kind of chime on to that as well, I completely agree, and I think that's one thing we really need to like give props to is the tech from the M² side of things. You know, I think for me personally, I've always looked at the metaverse as, you know, Ready Player One's Oasis, and the only thing that we're really missing from that in terms of like gameplay experience is the scale. You know, we have the scale on social medias like Twitter, etc., but nowhere has that for video games. And that's where I kind of see it. And I think now that we have that technology behind it, I think the next thing is just is seeding that content, where that's where the stage we're at, you know, and then eventually getting to the point where people are building and we're getting community built games, maps, experiences, you know, social stuff, etc. You know, I think once we start seeing that people are actually loving this and you know, we get enough content out there ourselves and people start building, then I think we're not far away from that reality and that dream of the Oasis, you know.
Well said, everyone. Any more thoughts to add on that point?
I wanted to jump in and say that I think like one of the important ways to make these decentralized spaces is by also like linking them together using a lot of open protocols and things that people can build on top of, unleash their creativity, their ideas, and come up with new ways to do certain things. But the really, really cool part is also allowing those people that make those changes, make those different things happen, to own those contributions, and being able to not only move assets and avatars between platforms, but actually move these contributions and functionality between these different platforms as well. And I think that's a really, really good way to have these spaces grow and make them more decentralized. And of course, yeah, experimentation is key there. It doesn't have to be perfect. The cool part is that we're basically learning as we go. So that's what I would say is facilitating that and supporting that.
Good point. Good point. So, if nobody has anything else to add, I think we'll talk a little bit about games and applications, experiences, stuff like that. All right. Perfect then. So, what experiences, games, and applications do you really see pushing the boundaries of Web3 and the metaverse right now? Not something that's like in the future, but like something that exists right now. It can be in beta stage too.
I mean,
Any,
we're so biased. We're so biased in answering this, so I want
I
to
know.
somebody else.
It's like
answer this.
everybody has something to shill here.
Yeah, I mean, like, where do I start shilling? I mean, but let's let somebody else.
I mean, I think just to add maybe a thought that bridges the last conversation with this one. I've been thinking a lot about our collective tendency to try to recreate real life experiences inside of digital ones, and maybe that's impossible to a one-to-one parity degree. And I think maybe just making digital experiences feel more alive is what's important. And so I think about the tension and the fun that I have felt in playing these mass concurrency experiences where there's hundreds or thousands of people around me. When you think about the traditional gaming market, things like Twitch and YouTube and any kind of live streaming apps have allowed thousands, if not millions, of people to watch one person play a video game, right? Like these are the streamers who are at the top of the top. And they experience something really special because they have that feeling of all these people around them watching what they're doing. But the average gamer, the average person doesn't feel that. They might just see a bunch of people in chat that are nameless bodies. Whereas in the experiences that you're seeing with what we're all building, I think everybody gets a little taste of that. When you have 1,000 people around you, sure, they're not all looking at you, but you still feel that. You get that same tension that single streamer gets, but instead of it being kind of stuck with that individual or only accessible to somebody who's at the top of their game and has a massive audience, it's accessible to everybody. So in that sense, I think we're starting to see the tech that Improbable has built really just open up the opportunities for people to feel more alive inside of video games. And yes, that is definitely shilling our own bags here, but I think it's true. Like I genuinely believe this is the case.
Yeah, I did have a lot of fun there in Edison, I will say, when I was playing City Shots with my controller. PP man, were you about to say something?
Yeah, I was, and sorry, I got kicked off the stage by accident. But yeah, like one of the coolest things about what Board is saying is that being able to like have your own digital identity, go into these spaces, whether it's an social experience, a game, whatever it is, and being able to interact with people that even if you've never met them, in real life, but people that that you've interacted in Discord, Twitter, whatever it is. It's a really surreal experience just being, having that instant connection, even though, yeah, you've never actually met in real life. So, yeah, I agree.
And I think, Luke, you had something to say as well, right?
Yeah, I was going to chime in. Obviously, it's hard to compare stuff to what we're doing here. But I think looking maybe back a little bit is stuff like Axie Infinity and CryptoKitties when they first came around, or specifically Axie. Building out a game where you can own assets at that point in time, that was pretty revolutionary. And I think that idea, and obviously having a blockchain that's a bit more facilitating of it, I know they moved one over, but I think being able to have that opportunity to be invested in the game, and then obviously building it out and doing stuff like Yuga are doing with the other side, and taking that gameplay element to like the whole new level of what we're expecting from AAA is kind of what gets me excited most,
And why don't you tell us a little bit about Jitter as well?
All right, sweet. So Jitter is a new project in Probable, and we are building out a video game for streamers to be able to play with their audience. The idea is that every video game or mini game mode that we build has an element of Twitch integration. So the idea is that you can play via the Twitch chat to varying degrees, whether you are in control of an avatar with basic commands, or you affect and impact the gameplay. Viewers love the idea of either elevating or completely ruining a streamer's experience when playing the games, and that's something we would like to build on. And I think this is where, for me, it gets really exciting. Is obviously, yes, it's the streamer aspect, building a game for creators to play with their audience, and actually having the scale ability for larger streamers to play with their audience. So if I think back to when I was a content creator, I used to stream GTA 5 with kids that were probably way too young to and shouldn't have been allowed to play by their parents, but they did, and I used to have to create new PSNs on PlayStation 3 to add people to my friends list so I could play with more viewers all the time. You were limited to 30 player lobbies or something. And we used to go through Rockstar Social Club crews like every couple of months, and I was never able to fully keep my community happy that wanted to play because we were limited by that. So the fact that we're building something that allows streamers to play a variety of different mini games with Twitch chat integration and having this scale, I think is really exciting with that. But then the long term kind of play here, and I guess this is where Somnia comes into it, is for me, I've always, as I mentioned before, I hated the idea of spending loads of money on various different games, and then when that game dies or a new game comes out, everything you invested is worthless. I would rather have the control over my assets that I purchase in game and decide when I want to cash them out or what I want to do with them. Even if it's not the full amount of what I paid initially, I would like to be able to have control over that. And I think that's what I'd like to have for Jitter in the long run, is that we are building a game where streamers can have their own in-game assets, merch, whatever, and it's interoperable across all of the metaverse. And then they have an opportunity to sell it on a marketplace that maybe a community member decides. So, hopefully that gives a bit of an insight into what we're building and why it kind of makes me very passionate.
Very cool. Very cool. So, does anybody else want to talk a little bit about something that you're currently building that you haven't already? I'll just give you an opportunity to do that now. All right. That's fair.
I'll chime in. I have to plug something that involves both of us. So on August 22nd, we'll be launching a new game mode for Edison. It's called Summer Crush. If you've ever played games like Minecraft or Roblox, this will feel very familiar. Somnia is kindly acting as a sponsor for that event. It will be live for at least 7 days. So August 22nd, show up. You're going to see some fun Somnia areas inside of the world. And we're gonna reveal more, but you can go to edison.wtf to sign up and add it to your calendar now.
That was a great plug. I appreciate that one because we're in it. That's awesome. So yeah, any other plugs before we move on? So here's an interesting question that I was thinking about, and this is kind of the way I always like to consider this question whenever I'm approaching any kind of new sector, I guess. If trade-offs need to be made between here and the creation of a virtual society, which ones would you be willing to make, and which ones would you be unwilling to sacrifice?
I can start answering this one, like on a personal note. I think, and I think there's other speakers here, without pointing any fingers, that agree to this. But I think privacy is a big one, and privacy to a certain extent. I think a lot of people that create their wallets or that have a wallet are like okay with having some type of data available, like being at the purchase history, like which NFTs they get, or general like other financial information. But I think when you go beyond that layer, there's a preservance that you want to have your actual privacy, like your real life privacy, in a lot of cases, like still private. And for me personally, there's my wallets are public, like people can see like how often I've been rugged and which shitty NFTs I bought and all went to zero. But there's a barrier for me that I don't want to cross, and that's like really on the real life privacy area when it comes to family, friends, and anything that is like in real life for me, and that's personal.
I totally agree there. PP man?
Yeah, I'll start with like what I think I'd be unwilling to sacrifice, like not willing to. I think that's like digital sovereignty and digital ownership, like true digital ownership, and that's probably like one of the biggest value props. Being able to like take your digital assets and across instances, across metaverses, in in such permissionless manner is something that really differentiates like all of this. I think it was you, John, or maybe it was Paul, who gave the example about Vitalik and how he got his, I think it was a sword nerfed by I think it was Blizzard or but the whole point is that if that would have happened in an ideal state, he could have just taken his sword, which he truly owned, onto a different experience, even if whatever publisher decided to do whatever it was with that sword. So that's probably what I'd say it's like the most important thing that we shouldn't sacrifice.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's kind of why we're all here. I think for deep down anyway. Anybody have anything else to add on this point, or any other thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing I'd never want to sacrifice is pragmatism to solving actual problems for people. I just don't believe in any kind of. I'm not a maxi of anything, and I'll never work on a project or allow a project to become a maxi of anything. Right. The trouble we have with Web3 is we have this incredible energy and this amazing community and this powerful set of technologies that can solve a problem. But if we're all really honest with ourselves, why haven't we had in like however long it's been since whatever Ethereum was, I think 2015, I want to say 2016. We've had so long to build wallets that actually, show NFTs or onboard that fabled billion other people. And I think a lot of what stopped it is maxis and people believing that their particular kind of concrete is necessary for the future rather than trying to build the future, right? And they kind of want to shill their bags or shill what they have. For me, I think being anti-maxi is the single most important thing. What problem is this thing solving? What real value is it creating? And if it's not creating value or if it's not solving a problem, stop it. One of the things people they'll say about Improbable is like, hey, you guys, you were building this, and now you're building this, and now you've changed to building that. And when stuff didn't work, you did new things. And we're like, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Why would we have remained maxis for things that don't work? And that's very painful because it means sometimes communities will feel like we're quote unquote, going against them, but we're not. We're going for the user. We're not going against you. We just want to solve an actual problem for someone. And the second the thing that you're shilling isn't that solution, we're not going to use it. And I think that applies even to our own products and even to things we start, right?
Yeah, that's very awesome points there. Luke, is your hand up there?
Yeah. Good question. I don't know what I would sacrifice, but I know what I wouldn't want to sacrifice, and I think that's accessibility, especially in the long run. Specifically for the metaverse overall, like I'd love to see people using VR to access it one day and stuff like that. But we need to also remember that if we want to have accessibility all around the world, we've got to be able to make sure that the metaverse is accessible via any type of technology, because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to use basic mobile phones. Not everyone's going to have a high-end gaming PC or a VR rig. I think we need to try and make sure that obviously there's going to be limitations, but I think if we can make sure that accessibility is a key thing that we want to see in the long run, it's pretty damn important.
Absolutely. Who else wants to jump in on this one? Any other thoughts? going one more time? All right, cool. So, one more question. What excites you most about the future of the metaverse or virtual society applications? What's the future looking like?
Herman, you can go.
You go first.
Okay. No, for me, it has been touched like earlier on already. Like it's the fact of just building like on a decentralized fashion and together, which I think is something that like working in the gaming industry for like a long time now is rather like still rather new, and I'm very excited about to see where this is going. Like really just like enabling your community or like your holders or like people that are passionate about what they're doing or what they want to learn and building together for a like being it a being it like in the metaverse or being it like in another environment and just having the tools available just to build. I think today like it's easier than never before to build your own product, to build your own game, like to build on M Squared or on other platforms like on mobile. And I'm very excited to just see how like what comes out of this, especially as like major game developers and publishers are struggling. Like AI is changing the game on a lot of senses, and like I'm very excited to see where this is going. And before, because I see that we're almost at the top of the hour, I have one quick shill for Victory League. So everyone that's listening here, you can see Victory League listening in, because on Friday we're going to host like a small event to test the new environment that we are doing, which is exactly what I was talking about. Like it's something where we have the tools to build something. M Squared and Probable and Somnia, they're enabling us to do this, and we just want to give everyone the opportunity to jump in and try it out and help us to build this and improve this. And I think this is like unrelated. That it's like of course a vested interest on our side. I think it's very exciting just to see how quickly people can build on the platform and everything that's possible. Also, a shout out to Directive Creator, from who I personally learned a lot on how to use the Unreal environment, the M Squared environment, and just import like avatars, build stuff, and just jump into blueprints.
Herman, you're up.
I mean, I don't know how much I want to reveal my level of deep personal obsession with this mission, but I mean, I'm waiting to live inside virtual worlds. I grew up playing a game called Neverwinter Nights, and you had to roleplay all the time on this particular server called Aralith. And if you didn't roleplay, you were booted off. Even if you were by yourself, you had to roleplay. I play Dungeons and Dragons whenever I can. I think about other worlds, other realities all the time. I find living one life as one person deeply limiting. And the idea of like having more experiences and being this multiversal self, it is the natural conclusion of any thinking person to want to make their dreams a reality. And if these other worlds can do that, it's really exciting. Now, I'm going to give a very controversial answer to what I'm excited about. So I know VR is having a really shit time. I know I have publicly banned VR, including in my book. But the new Oculus generation was the first time playing a few games where I was like, shit, there is value to immersion, not only presence. And I know our tech can handle it. And one day, maybe not too far away, I would love to have a mass meeting gathering with our voice tech, with all the things you guys may have seen in VR, because I think it would be absolutely mind blowing, and I believe it would become like more of a phase change in the experience we could have. Like I would love to just hang out with all of you in a big crowd, and do that as we've done in our virtual events, but like with that feeling of presence. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing happen. I don't think the moment's just yet. The install base isn't high enough, and the ability for companies to like invest in that space isn't quite there. But like one more generation, maybe.
We're almost there. Anybody else? Any thoughts before we?
I think who's up? Is that Luke? Go ahead,
Yeah,
Luke.
yeah. You go first. You go first.
All right. Yeah, like I agree. Like AI, and by the way, like the multiverse stuff that Herman mentioned, I think that I'm pretty excited about too. But another thing that I'm excited about is like what the impact of virtual experiences have in real life. I think that one of the biggest value props right now that we're experimenting with, that everyone's experimenting with, is entertainment. Whether it's a social experience, a gaming experience, whatever it is, it's entertainment. But seeing how like these use cases develop beyond entertainment and start to spill into real life will be very interesting. I'm a huge fan of like what the Made by Apes people are doing when it comes to building on their IP. And what if we enabled communities to have a way to network with very practical outcomes? It could be like jobs, it could be like building product, it could be like whatever it is that has a bigger impact to people's actual life. That's what I think is exciting.
I totally agree. Luke?
For me, it's having that like a truly virtual social experience. Like I look back at, for instance, like PlayStation Home when that came out on the PS3 many years ago, and jumping into it with a few school friends. And I don't even remember there was any much you could do in it, but it felt really cool the fact that I could be walking around this little virtual like town or something that it was city and chatting with my friends and as an avatar. That for me was like, this is really cool. And I hate kind of banging on about it, but if we can expand upon that and actually make that good, and what we've seen from the Oasis to Ready Player One, that truly virtual experience, that's what excites me most.
Amazing. Well, Board.
Yeah, I mean, just a quick chime in. I think it's just creating magic in people's lives more frequently and more cheaply, right? Like you can go to Disneyland, you can go to a concert, you can go on vacation, and that will create moments of magic in your life, but it happens very infrequently. The metaverse can bring those feelings to you, even if it's not 100% the same, even if it's 85% the same, if you can recreate that feeling of magic once a week, right? That's worth pursuing. I think that's really important. And you don't have to be bound by the laws of physics or the costs of making real experiences. You can do things that break boundaries. So that, for me personally, and I think this touches on what everyone was talking about, was the reason we want to build these parallel realities, is to just get away from the mundane and the anxiety-inducing internet that we currently have, and have more magic.
Perfect. I think that might be a good place to close it today, unless anybody had any additional final thoughts. I think that was pretty good. Great discussion, everybody. But I know that everybody is waiting for me to say the secret word, which is dream. So yeah, dream, if you are questing out there and you've been waiting for that. We'll catch you next time on Uniting Societies, and check out what everybody is doing. You could find us through our icons, and stay tuned for more. See you next time.